August 15th, 1968. The Beverly Carlton Hotel. 8-year-old Michael Patterson, who had been born with cerebral palsy, was being told by hotel manager Richard Brennan that the hotel's swimming pool was not appropriate for children with his condition and that his family would need to find more suitable accommodations. What happened next would become one of the most devastating displays of righteous fury in Hollywood history as Doris Day transformed from America's sweetheart into an unstoppable force that would destroy Brennan's career and change how the hospitality industry treated disabled guests forever. Within 3 months, Richard Brennan would be unemployed, the Beverly Carlton would be facing bankruptcy, and every hotel in America would understand that discriminating against disabled children meant facing consequences they couldn't survive. This is the story of what happens when cruelty meets compassion and why some people learn too late that attacking innocent children means declaring war on someone who fights back without mercy. The Patterson family had saved for 2 years to afford a week's vacation at the Beverly Carlton Hotel. Tom Patterson was a factory supervisor from Ohio, his wife Linda was an elementary school teacher, and their son Michael was a bright, cheerful boy who happened to have cerebral palsy that affected his walking and coordination. Michael was the sweetest kid you could imagine, recalled former hotel employee Maria Santos. He was excited about everything the elevators, the fancy lobby, the swimming pool. He just wanted to have fun like any other child. Richard Brennan was the Beverly Carlton's general manager, a man who had built his career on maintaining what he called standards of excellence that often translated to excluding anyone who didn't fit his narrow definition of appropriate guests. Brennan was obsessed with the hotel's image, explained former assistant manager David Chen. He thought disabled guests would make other visitors uncomfortable and hurt the hotel's reputation as a luxury destination. The incident that would end Brennan's career began on the Patterson family's second day at the hotel. Michael had been excited about swimming all morning, and his parents had brought him to the pool area around 10 a.m. Michael couldn't swim very well because of his condition, but he loved being in the water. Linda Patterson recalled years later. We had brought flotation devices and planned to stay right with him every second. That's when Richard Brennan approached their table by the pool. "Excuse me," Brennan said with false politeness, "I need to speak with you about your son." Tom Patterson looked up from helping Michael with his swimwear. "Is there a problem?" "I'm afraid the pool area isn't suitable for children with special needs. We have liability concerns and other guests to consider." Linda Patterson felt her heart sink. "Are you saying Michael can't use the pool?" "I'm saying that children with physical disabilities require specialized facilities that we don't provide. Perhaps you would be more comfortable at a hotel that caters to families with your particular circumstances." The cruelty was delivered with a smile, but it was cruelty nonetheless. "What exactly are you suggesting?" Tom asked, his voice controlled but angry. "I'm suggesting that the Beverly Carlton may not be the right fit for your family's needs. We'd be happy to help you find alternative accommodations that would be more appropriate." Michael, who had been listening to this conversation with growing confusion, looked up at his parents with tears in his eyes. "Daddy, why can't I swim? I promised to be good." That innocent question would haunt Richard Brennan for the rest of his very short remaining career. What Brennan didn't know was that Doris Day was sitting at a nearby table, having breakfast with friends after her morning ride. She had heard every word of the conversation, and she was rapidly becoming angrier than anyone had ever seen her. "Excuse me," Doris said, approaching the Patterson family's table. "I couldn't help overhearing. Are you telling this family that their son can't use the hotel pool?" Brennan recognized Doris immediately, and his tone became more diplomatic. "Miss Day, this is really a private matter between the hotel and our guests." "No, it's not private when you're discriminating against a disabled child in public. I want to know exactly what hotel policy prohibits children with cerebral palsy from swimming." Brennan was trapped between his discriminatory attitudes and his recognition that he was facing one of Hollywood's most beloved stars. "Miss Day, we have policies about guest safety and liability. Show me the policy." "In writing, right now." "Well, it's not exactly written down, but we have standards that exclude disabled children." "That's not a standard, Mr. Brennan. That's discrimination." Doris turned to address Michael directly, kneeling down to his eye level. "Hi, sweetheart, what's your name?" "Michael," the boy said shyly, wiping away tears. "Michael, do you like to swim?" "Yes, ma'am, but the man says I can't because I'm different." Doris's expression hardened as she stood up to face Brennan again. "Mr. Brennan, this little boy has done nothing wrong except be born with a condition he can't control. His parents are paying guests at this hotel, and you're denying their son access to facilities that are included in what they paid for. Miss Day, you don't understand the complexities of hotel management. I understand cruelty when I see it, and I understand that what you're doing is not just morally wrong. It's illegal under California civil rights law. What happened next would be talked about in Hollywood for decades." Doris announced loudly enough for everyone in the pool area to hear. "Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to witness what's happening here. This hotel manager is refusing to allow an 8-year-old boy to swim because the child has cerebral palsy." The entire pool area fell silent as guests turned to watch the confrontation. "This is discrimination, pure and simple, and anyone who continues to patronize a hotel that treats disabled children this way is supporting this cruelty." Brennan tried to regain control. "Miss Day, you're causing a scene. I'm exposing a scene that you created, and I'm just getting started." Doris turned back to the Patterson family. "Michael, would you like to go swimming with me?" The boy's face lit up with joy. "Really? Really? And anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me personally." What followed was one of the most powerful acts of solidarity in civil rights history. Doris Day, America's sweetheart, spent the next hour in the Beverly Carlton pool, playing with Michael Patterson and helping him enjoy the water while his parents watched with tears of gratitude. Every other guest in the pool area watched in amazement as one of Hollywood's biggest stars chose to stand with a disabled child against hotel discrimination. "It was incredible," recalled guest Margaret Williams. "Here was this famous actress, completely focused on making sure one little boy felt accepted and valued." But Doris's support for Michael was just the beginning of her response to Brennan's discrimination. That afternoon, she began making phone calls to every major figure in the entertainment industry, the disability rights community, and the hospitality business. Doris contacted everyone she knew, recalled civil rights attorney David Rubin. She wanted to make sure that what had happened to Michael Patterson never happened to another disabled child. Her first call was to the Beverly Carlton's owner, real estate mogul Charles Morrison. "Mr. Morrison, I want you to know that your hotel manager is discriminating against disabled children, which is both morally reprehensible and legally actionable." Morrison tried to downplay the incident, but Doris was relentless. "I'm not calling to complain, Mr. Morrison. I'm calling to inform you that if Richard Brennan is still employed by your hotel tomorrow, I will personally organize a boycott that will destroy your business." The threat was delivered calmly, but Morrison understood that Doris Day had the influence to make good on it. Within hours, every major star in Hollywood had received calls from Doris, asking them to refuse to stay at the Beverly Carlton until the hotel changed its discriminatory policies. When Doris Day calls you and says a hotel is discriminating against disabled children, you listen, recalled actor Rock Hudson. Nobody wanted to be associated with that kind of cruelty, but Doris's most devastating move was contacting the media. She arranged for reporters and photographers to interview the Patterson family about their experience, ensuring that the story of Michael's discrimination would reach the widest possible audience. The story of what happened to Michael Patterson became front-page news, recalled former Los Angeles Times entertainment editor Charles Champlin. Doris had turned a hotel's discrimination into a national civil rights story. The public reaction was swift and overwhelming. Disability rights organizations organized protests outside the Beverly Carlton. Civil rights lawyers offered to represent the Patterson family pro bono. Guest cancellations poured in from across the country. The hotel went from being fully booked to having a 30% occupancy rate in less than 2 weeks, recalled former hospitality industry analyst Robert Chen. But the most damaging blow was the investigation triggered by Doris's complaints to state and federal authorities. Doris provided detailed documentation of the discrimination to the California Civil Rights Commission and the Justice Department, explained former civil rights investigator Patricia Williams. The hotel was facing serious legal consequences for violating federal disability rights laws. Richard Brennan tried to defend his actions by claiming he was protecting the hotel's liability, but his explanations only made the situation worse. Every statement Brennan made revealed more about his discriminatory attitudes, observed disability rights activist Ed Roberts. He was digging his own professional grave with every interview. The end came swiftly and completely. 3 weeks after the pool incident, Charles Morrison fired Richard Brennan and issued a public apology to the Patterson family and the disability community. We deeply regret the discriminatory treatment that Michael Patterson and his family experienced at our hotel. This behavior does not reflect our values, and we are implementing comprehensive training to ensure it never happens again. The Beverly Carlton also agreed to pay a substantial settlement to the Patterson family and to fund a scholarship program for disabled children. But for Richard Brennan, the consequences were permanent and devastating. Richard became unemployable in the hospitality industry, recalled former hotel industry executive Martha Stewart, not the lifestyle guru. Nobody wanted to hire someone who had been exposed as discriminating against disabled children. Brennan tried to find work at other hotels, but the story of his discrimination against Michael Patterson followed him everywhere. Within 6 months he had left the hospitality industry entirely and was working as a night security guard in Arizona. Meanwhile, the incident sparked lasting changes in how the hospitality industry treated disabled guests. The Patterson case became a turning point, explained disability rights historian Paul Longmore. Hotels across the country implemented new policies to ensure accessibility and prevent discrimination. More importantly, Michael Patterson became a symbol of the fight for disability rights. What Doris Day did for Michael inspired a generation of disability advocates, observed former disabled rights movement leader Judy Heumann. She showed that discrimination against disabled children was unacceptable and that there would be consequences for it. Years later, in 1990, when the Americans with Disabilities Act was signed into law, Michael Patterson was invited to the White House signing ceremony. "I always remember what Miss Day told me that day at the hotel," Michael said in his remarks. "She said that being different doesn't make you less valuable, it makes you special. And she proved that some people will fight to protect that specialness." August 15, 1968. A hotel manager thought he could discriminate against a disabled child without consequences. 3 weeks later, his career was over, his hotel was facing bankruptcy, and the entire hospitality industry had learned that attacking innocent children means facing the wrath of people with the power to destroy you. Richard Brennan discovered too late that some cruelty is so pure that it awakens a fury that cannot be stopped, cannot be reasoned with, and cannot be survived. Doris Day proved that day that America's sweetheart had claws when innocent children needed protection, and those claws were merciless when the innocent were attacked by people who should have known better. Some battles are fought for glory, others are fought for justice. The most important ones are fought for children who can't fight for themselves, especially when those children are being attacked for conditions they never chose and can't control. That's when America's sweetheart becomes America's protector. And protectors don't show mercy to predators. They show them what happens when you pick on someone who has friends with the power to end you, completely, permanently, without regret, because some things are worth being merciless about. And protecting disabled children from discrimination is definitely one of them. Michael Patterson learned that day that being different didn't make him less valuable. Richard Brennan learned that attacking different children makes you unemployable. The lesson was harsh but necessary, and it was taught by someone who understood that real strength means protecting those who need protection most, even when it means destroying those who would hurt them, especially then. That's what legends do. They make sure the innocent are safe by making sure the cruel are stopped forever.